Hello guys. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, because I'm not sure what time of the day you will watch this video. By the way, I am Attorney Jose Dulad II and I'm a certified public accountant, and this is one of my lecture videos in Law on Other Business Transactions. So Law on Other Business Transactions is one of the major topics in RFBT. RFBT is part of the CPA licensure examination. So, law on other business transactions is exactly 25% of the entire RFBT. So, for a total of 100 items, there will be 25 questions on law on other business transactions. So, number one, we have PDIC law, which is 2%. And second, secrecy of bank deposits, 2%. Truth in Lending Act, the Anti-Money Laundering Act or Anti-Money Laundering Law, 6%. Intellectual Property Law, 2%. Data Privacy Act, 3%. E-Commerce Act, 2%. Ease of Doing Business, 2%. Uh, Labor Standards, 2%. And Social Security Law, 2%. So, this is 25% or one-fourth of the exam on RFBT. So you might be focusing too much in law on sales and other credit transactions, but that's just 6% of the entire exam in RFBT. So we have now is PDIC law. Okay, so we begin our discussion on PDIC law. So what is the Philippine Deposit Insurance Corporation? So PDIC exists to protect depositors by providing deposit insurance. So they provide deposit insurance coverage for the depositing public and help promote financial stability. So imagine if you have 10,000 pesos on hand. Okay, so if you want to deposit that in the bank and there is no law creating this Philippine Deposit Insurance Corporation, and if the bank closes, you will not receive anything from the bank. So kapag meron kang 10,000 pesos on hand, and if you're thinking to deposit such amount in the bank and there is no law existing, there is no PDIC law existing, so there will be no guarantee. Your 10,000 pesos will not be insured. Okay, so if the bank closes, you will not receive anything from the bank. So this is the very purpose why the PDIC exists. So kung meron kang 10,000, siguro kung walang insurance, you might not be depositing it in the bank na lang eh. You'll hold it instead of depositing it. So in order to promote or in order to boost the confidence of the depositing public, so this is the legislation created by the Congress, PDIC law. So PDIC is a government instrumentality created in 1963 by virtue of Republic Act 3591 to provide depositor protection and promote financial stability. So it is an attached agency of the Department of Finance. So the PDIC's core mandates are deposit insurance and liquidation of closed banks. So the PDIC prides itself as a professional, committed, and responsive public service institution and a champion in governance. It is a socially responsible corporation which advocates to empower every Filipino through financial literacy. Okay, so the entire PowerPoint has a question and answer format. So this material was taken from the PDIC website. Okay, so what is PDIC's overall mandate? So it exists to provide deposit insurance coverage for the depositing public to help promote public confidence and stability in the economy. So basically, it encourages the depositing public to have their money in the bank. Okay, so it ensures prompt payment of insured deposits, exercises complementary supervision of banks, adopts responsive resolution methods, and applies efficient management of receivership, and liquidation functions. So what are the functions of the PDIC? So there are two main functions of the PDIC. First, as a deposit insurer, and second is as liquidator of closed banks. But our coverage for, as you can see here in our syllabus, our coverage for under PDIC law is: number one, describe the insurable deposits, compute the maximum liability, and identify the requirement for claim. So basically, we will not be discussing the PDIC as a liquidator or liquidator of closed banks, but more on as a deposit insurer. Okay. So parang insurance company talaga yung PDIC, and it insures yung pera ng public, pera ng depositing public. So what is PDIC's maximum deposit insurance coverage? So effective January 1, the maximum deposit insurance coverage is 500,000 pesos per depositor. Before June 1, 2009, the insurance coverage, the MDIC, maximum deposit insurance coverage, before, it was 250,000 only, but effective June 1, 2009, it's now pegged at 500,000 pesos. So all deposit accounts by a depositor in a closed bank maintained in the same right and capacity shall be added together. Later on, we will have an example on this provision. So under RA 9576, the PDIC may propose to adjust the maximum deposit insurance coverage subject to the approval of the President of the Philippines in case of a condition that threatens the monetary and financial stability of the banking system that may have systematic consequence. So under this law, PDIC is also given the power to increase, to adjust. So probably to increase the maximum deposit insurance coverage. However, that is subject to the approval of the President of the Philippines. So what are the conditions in order that the PDIC may propose in case of a condition that threatens the monetary and financial stability of the banking system? Okay, so next question. What is an insured deposit? So this a provision taken from the law itself. So the term deposit means that the amount due to any bona fide depositor for legitimate deposits in an insured bank, net of any obligation of the depositor to the insured bank as of date of closure, but not to exceed 500,000 pesos. So the term insured deposit means legitimate deposits in an insured bank. Okay? So a joint account shall be insured separately. Okay? So if in case an individual has another account such as joint account, it shall be insured separately from any individually owned deposit account. So basically, if an individual has an individually owned deposit account and joint account in the same bank, it shall be insured separately. So therefore, there will be 500,000 insurance for the individually owned deposit account and 500,000 insurance for the joint account, or a total of 1 million pesos. Okay? So what RA 9576 stipulates that PDIC will not pay deposit insurance for the following accounts or transactions. So these are the exclusions. This will not be covered by the 500,000 peso insurance. So what are those? Number one, investment products such as bonds, securities, and trust accounts. So second, we have deposit accounts which are unfunded, fictitious, or fraudulent. So this is correct because the term insured deposit means legitimate deposits in an insured bank. So legitimate deposits and not unfunded, fictitious, or fraudulent deposits. Number three, we have deposit products constituting or emanating from unsafe and unsound banking practices. And the last one, deposits that are determined to be the proceeds of an unlawful activity as defined under the anti-money laundering law. So, next question, are all banks members of PDIC? The answer, membership of banks to PDIC is mandatory. So, hence all operating banks are members of PDIC. Next question, what types of deposits are insured by the PDIC? So, except for the exclusions stipulated in RA 9576, deposits of all commercial banks, savings and mortgage banks, rural banks, private development banks, cooperative savings and loan associations, as well as branches in agencies in the Philippines of foreign banks and all other corporations authorized to perform banking functions in the Philippines are insured with the PDIC. So it also includes foreign banks and all other corporations. Foreign currency deposits are also insured by the Philippine Deposit Insurance Corporation. So, depositors may receive payment in the same currency in which the insured insured deposit is denominated. So, these are the exclusions. These are the exclusions under RA 9576. So, are deposits maintained in branches and subsidiaries of foreign banks operating in the Philippines insured by the PDIC? So, if in case uh, the foreign bank has branches and subsidiaries in the Philippines, are the same insured by the PDIC? So, the answer is yes. The PDIC charter provides that the deposits in branches and subsidiaries of foreign banks licensed by the BSP to perform banking functions in the Philippines are insured by PDIC. Next, are deposits maintained in Philippine banks with branches outside the Philippines insured by the PDIC? So it's the other way around. If the foreign bank has a branch or subsidiary here in the Philippines, that is that is also insured by the PDIC. But this time, what if there is a Philippine bank with branches abroad? Is it also insured by the PDIC? So the answer, the PDIC charter provides that a Philippine bank may elect to insure with the PDIC its deposits in branches outside the Philippines. So according to the charter, the PDIC charter, the Philippine bank has an option to insure with the PDIC. However, as of April 2021, no Philippine bank has elected to insure deposits in their foreign branches with PDIC. So wala pang Philippine bank na nag-insure ng foreign deposits. Okay? To verify if your deposits in a branch of a Philippine bank outside the Philippines are covered by deposit insurance in the host foreign country, so kindly inquire it with the account officer of your branch. What specific risk to a bank does PDIC cover? So, kapag nagkaroon ba ng money heist, like yung favorite series nyo sa Netflix, is it covered by PDIC insurance? Okay? So, what specific risk to a bank does PDIC cover? So, PDIC covers only the risk of a bank closure. Bank closure only, ordered by the Monetary Board. So, bank losses due to theft, fire, closure by reason of strike, or existence of public disorder, revolution, or civil war are not covered by the PDIC. So, PDIC covers only the risk of a bank closure. Okay. Shall the depositor pay any insurance premium to PDIC? So, basically, if kung meron kang life insurance, let's say with any company like Sun Life, the insured pays the insurance premium to the insurer. But in this case, shall the depositor pay any insurance premium to PDIC? The answer is no. Insurance premium is paid by the banks, not by the depositors. The bank is assessed one fifth of 1% per annum of the assessment base of the bank. So therefore, the depositor will not pay any insurance premium to PDIC. Now, how is insurance coverage determined? So in determining the insured amount, the outstanding balance of each account is adjusted such that interests are updated. So interest on the bank deposits, i-add siya dun sa outstanding balance. Okay? So if there are withholding tax, ide-deduct naman yung withholding taxes. Accounts maintained by a depositor in the same right and capacity are added together. So what do we mean by accounts maintained by a depositor in the same right and capacity? So it means that if a depositor has multiple accounts in the same banks, uh, not every account is insured by PDIC because it will be added together. So for example, if you have four accounts with BPI and each account has 500,000 pesos, so you have a total of 2 million pesos. So 500 in bank 1, so on and so forth. So does it mean that every account is insured by PDIC? Will you receive 500,000 for each account in case that the the bank is closed? So the answer is no, because accounts maintained by a depositor in the same right and capacity are added together. So i-add lang siya yung buong deposit mo sa bank na yon. So for a total of 2 million deposit, only 500,000 will be insured. Okay? So and whenever applicable, unpaid loans and other obligations of the depositor are deducted. So pag may utang sa bangko, merong loan, that will be deducted in the outstanding balance. Okay? In no case shall insured deposit exceed 500,000 pesos. Okay? So this one, it has already been discussed. What are those accounts? Because RA number 9576 stipulates that PDIC will not pay deposit insurance for the following accounts. So ito na yung mga na-discuss ko kanina, yung investment products such as bonds, securities, trust account, unfunded or fictitious or fraudulent account, deposit emanating from unsafe and unsound banking practices, deposits that are determined to be the proceeds of unlawful activity. Next slide. Can PDIC insurance coverage be increased by having several accounts in the name in an insured bank? So the answer is no. So deposit insurance coverage is not determined on a per account basis. So the type of account, whether check, savings, time, or other form of deposit, has no bearing on the amount of insurance coverage. So meaning, whether meron kang savings account, meron kang checking account, meron kang time deposit account, uh, it is not determined on a per account basis. So the amounts will be added together. So next question, if I have deposits in several different insured banks, will my deposits be added together for insurance purposes? So let's say, for example here, if you have a deposit in bank 1, let's say in BPI, and you also have a bank deposit in BDO, okay? The question is, if I have deposits in several different insured banks, will my deposits be added together for insurance purposes? So this time the answer is no. Deposits in different banking institutions are insured separately. So for example, if you have 1 million in BPI and you have 1 million in BDO, it does not mean that you only have uh, an insured amount of a total of 500,000. No, because deposits in different banking institutions are insured separately. So therefore, you will receive, for example, if BPI and BDO closed, you will receive 500,000 from BPI and another 500,000 from the BDO. Okay? Is there a need for a depositor to file his claim for insured deposit with PDIC? Of course, there is a need to file a claim. So depositors will be advised through the national and or local media and posters at the premises of the closed insured bank and other public places within the locality on the schedule of distribution of claim forms by the PDIC. Okay, so if a bank closes, the PDIC will pay the insured amount. When should the depositor of a closed insured bank file his claim with PDIC? Okay, so this time merong time bar in filing a claim. So the depositor of the closed insured bank has 24 months from the date of bank takeover to file his deposit insurance claim. So 24 months or 2 years from the date of bank takeover. So if the deposit account in a closed bank is more than 500,000, what happens to the excess of the maximum amount of insured deposit? Okay? So the claim for the uninsured portion of the deposit is a claim against the assets of a closed bank. The claim may be filed with the liquidator of the closed bank within a period of 60 days from publication of notice of closure. However, payment of said claim will depend on the bank's available assets and approval of the liquidation court. The schedule of payment beyond the 500,000 maximum insurance shall be based on priorities set by law. So if for example you have a bank deposit of 1 million in a closed bank, or let's say 900,000 pesos na lang, 900,000 pesos in a closed bank. So the first 500,000 pesos will be insured with the PDIC. So therefore PDIC will pay the 500,000 pesos. What about the uninsured amount of the remaining 400,000? 400,000 kasi 900,000 less 500,000. Will you able to claim any amount on those on 400,000? Okay? So the claim may be filed with the liquidator of the closed bank. However, payment of said claim will depend on the bank's available assets and approval. So out of the 900,000, 500,000 is the insured amount, whereas the 400,000 is the uninsured amount. Sir, makukuha pa ba yung 400,000? Okay, so depende. Depende kung meron pang available na asset yung bank. So illustrative case on single accounts or sole proprietorship, by accounts or ITF accounts. Okay, so the charter provision of the PDIC provides that in determining such amount due to any depositor, there shall be added together all deposits in the bank maintained in the same right and capacity for his benefit, either in his own name or in the name of others. What are the single accounts? Single accounts are individually owned accounts or accounts held under one name, either as a natural person or juridical entity. So natural person refers to any individual person. Single proprietors are considered natural persons, whereas yung juridical entity refers to a corporation, partnership, or a cooperative. Okay? Whereas joint account regardless of whether the conjunction or and/or is used shall be insured separately from single accounts. So ito yung sinasabi ko kanina, if you have an individually owned account and a joint account together with another person, that will be insured separately. So there will be 500,000 insurance on your individually owned account, and another 500,000 on your individually owned joint account. Joint accounts held in the names of a juridical entity and a natural person shall be presumed to belong solely to the juridical entity. Okay? So, for example, these are the buy ITF or FAO accounts. In a buy account, for example, Anna by Ben. In this case, Anna is the depositor. Okay? So, in trust for or yung ITF account naman, uh, let's say Anna in trust for Ben. So, Ben is the depositor. Okay? So, in trust for Ben kasi. Let's say for the account of or yung FAO account for the account of Anna for the account of Ben. In this case, Ben is the depositor. For example, here, in case of single accounts, and let's compute the insured and uninsured amount. Let's say the depositor here is Juan de la Cruz, and he has an account maintained in the home office, and he also has another account in home office, savings deposit, and a time deposit. And Juan de la Cruz maintained in branch 1 a demand deposit account. Juan de la Cruz maintained in branch 2 a time deposit account. So these are the balances under those banks. Question: how much is the uninsured amount? Okay, so the insured amount is 500,000 pesos, whereas the uninsured amount is 400,000 pesos. Okay, so all the four deposit accounts, that is account numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4, are owned by the same person, Juan de la Cruz, and maintained in the same bank head office and all its branches. So therefore, the balance of the accounts will be added together. So yung balance niya will be added together. So ito siya, 900,000. They will be added together as they are maintained in the same right and capacity. So regardless of account type and banking unit branch. So the total of insured deposit cannot exceed 500,000 pesos. So therefore the MDIC or the maximum deposit insurance coverage will be 500,000 pesos. So of the total balance of 900,000, the amount insured is 500,000 pesos, and the uninsured amount is 400,000 pesos. Okay? So ito, true or false. In this case, Juan de la Cruz will only receive 500,000 pesos. True or false? Okay? So merong statement. In this case, Juan de la Cruz will only receive 500,000 pesos. True or false? Okay? So the answer is false. While Juan de la Cruz will receive 500,000 pesos from PDIC, it does not enjoin him to receive part of the uninsured amount. Okay? So meron pa siyang claim against dun sa assets ng bank na 400,000 pesos. So Juan de la Cruz may not be able to recover the entire 400,000 pesos, but he can get any amount from the uninsured claim. So depending on the availability of the bank's asset. So pwedeng for every peso na uninsured amount, pwede lang siya maka-receive ng 50 cents, let's say 50 cents for every peso. So sa 400,000, every 50 cents is 200,000 pesos. So yung the rest will not be able to recover. Okay? So in case of single accounts and sole proprietorship. So in this case, Juan de la Cruz has different type of deposit. Meron siyang savings, time, and demand deposit. And meron din siyang isang sole proprietor na business. Now question is how much is the insured deposit and how much is the uninsured deposit. So a total of 900,000 yung deposit niya. So the first three deposit accounts are owned by the same person, Juan de la Cruz. Hence, the balance of the accounts will be added together. So a sole proprietor is fully owned by the owner. Hence, the De La Cruz flower shop owned by Juan de la Cruz will be added together to his first three accounts as all of them are maintained in the same right and capacity. So the total amount insured cannot exceed 500,000 pesos. So the insured deposit is 500,000 pesos. So of the total 900,000 amount, the insured is 500k while the uninsured amount is 400,000. So next case, this one. Uh, Case 3, single ITF and buy accounts. Now, question is compute the insured and uninsured amount. In this case, Juan de la Cruz has a demand deposit, and Juan de la Cruz in trust for Antonio de la Cruz. Okay, in trust for Antonio de la Cruz. Juan de la Cruz by Maria de la Cruz. Ayun yung account name per bank records. And another account which is Juan de la Cruz by Maria de la Cruz or Pedro de la Cruz. So in this case, let's determine kung sino ba yung depositor dito sa mga cases na to. So therefore sa case 1, individually owned account siya. Therefore kay Juan de la Cruz yan. So, Juan de la Cruz by Maria de la Cruz, and yung account number for na Juan de la Cruz by Maria de la Cruz or Pedro de la Cruz are also owned by Juan de la Cruz. So, the single account number 1 is under his name alone, and the other two are by accounts. So, ito yung mga buy accounts naman, yung Juan de la Cruz by Maria de la Cruz and Juan de la Cruz by Maria de la Cruz or Pedro de la Cruz, which are owned by him as the principal depositor or beneficial owner, while Maria de la Cruz here and Pedro de la Cruz acted as his agents only. So, thus, the total insured amount payable to Juan de la Cruz is 500,000 pesos. So, ito siya. So, itong account number 1 shall be added together. So, yung account number 3 and yung account number 4. Okay? Because Juan de la Cruz is the depositor in accounts number 1, 3, and 4. 1, 3, and 4 kay Juan de la Cruz yan. Sir, what about yung second account? Yung Juan de la Cruz in trust for Antonio de la Cruz. So, yung account number 2 is owned by Antonio de la Cruz. So, therefore, wala siyang share dyan in the insured portion of the deposit. Okay? So, magkano yung total deposit ni Juan de la Cruz? So, 200 plus 500 plus 500 or a total of 1.2 million. So, question, how much is the insured deposit? So, only 500,000 pesos. Whereas yung uninsured deposit is 700,000 pesos. Okay? So, Antonio de la Cruz on the other hand has only one account. So, an in-trust for account in which Antonio is the principal or beneficial owner and Juan de la Cruz only acted as the agent. So, therefore, Antonio de la Cruz is entitled to a separate deposit insurance of 400,000 pesos. Next case. These are the illustrative cases on joint accounts. So, kanina na-discuss natin ano ba yung mga joint accounts. So, a joint account regardless of whether the conjunction and or is used shall be insured separately. So, meron siyang separate na 500,000 peso insurance. So, if the account is held jointly by two or more natural persons or by two or more juridical persons or entities, the maximum insured deposit shall be divided into as many equal shares as there are individuals, juridical person, or entities unless a different sharing is stipulated in the document of deposit. So basically, if for example, merong 1 million na joint account held by Juan de la Cruz and Maria de la Cruz. Okay? So 1 million held by Juan de la Cruz and Maria de la Cruz. So in that case, separate uh, meron silang separate insurance because according to this provision, it shall be divided into as many equal shares as there are individuals. Let's have this one. First account name per bank records, we have Juan de la Cruz. Okay? So second account, a time deposit accounts, Juan de la Cruz and Maria de la Cruz. Third account, Juan de la Cruz or Pedro de la Cruz. Now, compute the insured and uninsured amount of each depositor. So compute natin yung kay Juan, yung kay Maria, and yung kay Pedro. Okay? So first account, individually owned account siya. So 600,000 pesos, and one will receive 500,000 pesos from the PDIC. So insured yung 500,000 pesos, while yung 100,000 will be uninsured portion of the deposit. So number 2, Juan de la Cruz and Maria de la Cruz. And the same is true with account number 3, which is owned by Juan de la Cruz or Pedro de la Cruz. So for the two accounts numbers 2 and 3, which are jointly maintained by him and Maria or Pedro de la Cruz, each joint account is considered equally shared among the depositors unless otherwise indicated in the deposit document. So the insurance coverage of 500,000 will apply to the sum of shares of each co-depositor in the insured portion of each joint deposit account. So for account number 2, the maximum deposit insurance is 500,000 pesos, and which shall be divided equally between Juan and Maria. So 250,000 for Juan de la Cruz and 250,000 for Maria. So for account number 3, the maximum deposit insurance is 500,000 pesos, which shall be divided equally between Juan and Pedro. Okay, so the share of Juan de la Cruz is 250,000 pesos. And the insured amount is how much? So the insured amount is the difference between 800k less 500, sorry, 500,000 to 500 500k. So therefore there is an uninsured portion of uh 300 300,000 pesos. So 300,000 pesos will be shared equally by Juan and Pedro. Okay? So Juan and Pedro. So the breakdown of insured and uninsured amount first. For single account of Juan de la Cruz, 500,000 pesos. And for joint account for Juan de la Cruz also 500,000 pesos. And for Maria, 250,000 pesos, and another 250,000 pesos for Pedro. Okay? So uninsured deposit for single account, ito yung remaining na 100,000 dun sa 600,000. So sa joint account naman, in case of 150,000, and and another 150,000 for Pedro. So a total of 300,000 na uninsured portion doon sa account ni Juan de la Cruz or Pedro de la Cruz. So ito yung difference ng 800 less 500,000. So next case, case number 5, or those accounts jointly owned by individuals or natural persons. So first account, Juan de la Cruz savings deposit of 500,000 pesos. Juan de la Cruz or Maria de la Cruz, amount is 600,000 pesos. Juan de la Cruz and Pedro de la Cruz, ito 500,000 pesos lang. And we also have yung last natin, yung Juan de la Cruz or Maria de la Cruz or Pedro de la Cruz. So 450,000 naman. Okay? So let's compute the insured deposit. Now, for single account, isa lang naman yung single account dito which is yung kay Juan de la Cruz, 'di ba? So insured amount is 500,000 pesos. So yung entire 500,000 insured siya. Okay? So for joint account naman, let's have yung account number 2 for savings deposit jointly owned by Juan and Maria de la Cruz. The share of Juan and Maria in the maximum deposit insurance coverage is 250,000 pesos each. Okay? Kasi 500 lang yung may insure dito 500 lang. So yung remaining na 100,000 will be the uninsured portion of the deposit. So divided equally among the depositors. Okay? So Juan de la Cruz and Pedro de la Cruz. So another 500,000 deposit. Okay? So the PDIC insures 500,000 pesos only. Okay? So therefore, covered siya ng insurance na 500,000 pesos. So tig 250,000 pesos sila ni Pedro. Si Juan and Pedro tig 250k. Now what about itong 450,000? This time it is owned jointly by Juan de la Cruz, Maria de la Cruz, or Pedro de la Cruz. So presumably ang share nila ay equal. So 450,000 divided by 3. Okay. So yung 450,000, how much is the insured and how much is the uninsured portion? Let's say, tignan natin yung account ni Juan. Okay? So, sa joint account niya with Maria de la Cruz, na-exhaust niya na yung 250,000 pesos. Sa joint account naman niya with Pedro de la Cruz, na-exhaust niya na yung 250,000 pesos. Okay? So, the law provides a separate insurance for joint accounts amounting to 500,000 pesos. So, yung MDIC for joint account is only 500,000 pesos. So, therefore, yung share dito ni Juan de la Cruz na 150,000 will no longer be covered by the insurance. So, yung 150 niya dito, eto siya. Magiging part siya ng uninsured portion of the deposit. Okay? Whereas, yung share naman ni Maria na 150,000 will be part of the insured portion. And the same is true with the share of Pedro. Sir, bakit yung kay Maria and yung kay Pedro, part siya ng insured portion? Tingnan mo tong account, yung account ni Maria de la Cruz muna. Okay? So, meron siyang MDIC or yung maximum deposit insurance coverage na 500,000 for joint accounts. Okay? So, out of that 500,000 pesos, 250 pa lang yung na-exhaust ni Maria. And the same is true with Pedro de la Cruz. 250 pa lang, 250k pa lang yung na-exhaust niya dun sa uh, 500,000 na MDIC. So part pa rin siya ng insured portion of the deposit. Okay? So to summarize, how much is the insured deposit for single account? So ito yung kay Pedro 500. Ay, ito yung kay Juan 500,000. And for joint account, 500,000 din kay Juan. Okay? So for Maria, yung covered na or yung insured deposit niya will be 400,000, which is yung 250 plus 150,000. And for joint account of Pedro, 400,000, 250 plus 150. So how much is the uninsured deposit? Okay? Sa case ni Juan, meron siyang 50 dito and merong 150. So 200,000. And in case of Maria, ito siya, ibaba lang natin. So 50k. Let's make it more complicated in our next example. I think this is our last slide na. You're right, yeah. This is our last slide. So case number 6, accounts jointly owned. Wait lang. Case number 6, accounts jointly owned by individuals, natural persons, and juridical persons or entities. So computation of uninsured and uninsured amount. So account name per records, Juan de la Cruz or Maria de la Cruz. So this is the account number 1. Account number 1. Account number 2, XYZ Corporation. And yung account number 3 naman natin, we have Juan de la Cruz and ABC Corporation. Okay, so compute the insured and uninsured amount. So here in account number 1, it is jointly owned by Juan de la Cruz or Maria de la Cruz. So in the amount 250,000, equally divided siya between Juan and Maria. So meron silang tig 250,000 na insured portion. Number 2, XYZ Corporation, it is considered as a separate juridical entity. So therefore entitled siya to receive 500,000 pesos. Juan de la Cruz and ABC Corporation. Ito yung account number 3 natin. So the demand deposit account number 3 maintained in the name of Juan de la Cruz and ABC Corporation. It is presumed to belong entirely to ABC Corporation. Okay? It is presumed to belong entirely to ABC Corporation. Okay? ABC Corporation. Hence, ABC Corporation is entitled to the 500,000 deposit insurance. Okay? Kung kay Juan pa natin ikakarga yan, not the entire 500,000 will be covered by the MDIC. But under the charter kasi, under the PDIC charter, there is a rule that if an account is owned by an individual and a juridical entity, it is presumed to be owned by the juridical entity. Okay? So in this case, compute the insured amount. Compute the insured amount. So in case of Juan de la Cruz, he has a 250,000 insured deposit. In case of Maria, she has a 250,000 insured deposit, while the juridical entities XYZ Corporation is entitled to a separate MDIC of 500,000. Okay? And ABC Corporation, since it is presumed to be owned by the juridical entity and Juan and not Juan de la Cruz another 500,000 pesos deposit insurance. Okay, so that's it. That's it for PDIC law, and I hope you have learned something from me. And please watch out for my next videos on law and other business transactions. So thank you, and if you like this video, kindly hit the like button and subscribe to my YouTube channel. So thank you, learners of law and aspiring CPAs, and good luck on your study.